Hi, everyone. Thanks for showing up tonight. I'm Debbie Schwartz, founder of Road to College and the Paying for College 101 Facebook group. We have a few more people who are coming in, but while we're waiting for everybody to sign on, I'd love for you to tell me in the chat where you're watching from and kind of more importantly, what year your student is in high school. And if you've done much research yet on colleges and college costs and things like that. So let me know. I'd love to, most importantly, know what year your student is in college. Great. A junior in New Jersey. Okay. Okay. A lot of juniors, which is this is the time I was expecting that, but nice to see a few younger people as well with an eighth grader, which is great, a freshman. Okay. So, and tell me if anybody wants to share what type of research they've done, and maybe specifically, I'll ask a question. How familiar are people with the Common Data Set? Have you looked at the Common Data Set? Do you even know what it is? Because that's going to kind of filter into a lot of what we discussed tonight. Know what it is, and I'm signed up for Monday. I've heard of this Common Data Set, but not sure what it is. Okay. Checked it out and it's hard to read. That's very true. So, okay, have used it. So a big kind of a range, but I would say the majority of people, at least who answered, you're not that familiar with the common data set. So tonight, I don't actually have formal slides, which I normally do, because I was going to walk through a report that we created a few months ago, and I think has been helpful for families. It's called the College Comparison Report. But the reason why I asked about the common data set is because it's really important data, and it's what we use a lot in the college comparison report to show families information about merit scholarships and other academic information. So because a fair number of people aren't that familiar with the common data set, I might start off spending maybe 10 minutes and we'll go through the common data set. And since I don't have slides, I think the best way to do it is why doesn't a few people put the names of colleges that they're interested in the chat? And I will pick a college and we're going to start from there and we're just going to Google the college's common data set and go through it. I think I did. Okay. So let's do Case Western. So let me um, share my screen and we'll get started. Okay. Oh, I saw somebody wrote Dartmouth, so I went to Dartmouth, but I won't use their common data set. Northeastern's a good one. Okay, well let's stick with what did we Case Western. So let me share my screen. Okay, so this is a clean, right, Google Sheet. I'm gonna sorry, move it over here. And I am going to start off. And wait, sorry, one more thing. Let me put the chat back up so I can see what questions you guys might have. Okay. I am going to start off. And honestly, if this is how I would find a school's common data set is just to put in the name of the school, Case Western Reserve University. And then I would do common data set. And just to make sure, just want to make sure, I'm assuming everybody can see my screen. Maybe just give you, oh, I have the wrong screen up. Okay, that's what I thought. Let's see. How's this? Is this, can people see? Yes. Okay, thank you. So if you want to see the common data set of any school, just type in the name of the school, then the words common data set after, and then what you're going to see is the results. And we'll click on the results, and most likely it's going to bring you to a page on the college's website that lists all the common data sets for the past few years. I'm going to skip, and actually, if you see here, it says common data set institutional research. The department on the college website, on the college, offices that handles the common data set is called the Office of Institutional Research. They are gathering data from all the different parts of the campus and the different administrative parts of the college. They are the ones that are primarily responsible for communicating data back to the government, back to research requests that they might get, and of course they also fill out the common data set. I'm sure they do a ton more, but that's what I'm most familiar with them. So I'm gonna actually we'll start here, and it's kind of interesting. I guess Case Western is only showing two common data sets, which is a little bit unusual. Most colleges show you at least 5, sometimes up to 10 years back, but okay. Case Western is only showing you two. But what's actually interesting is that this 2025-2026 is their most recent common data set. And let me just explain the numbering. So 2025-26 means that this covers the students who enrolled in the fall of 2025, and then they're going to be there through the academic year of 2026. So that's the 25 to 26 covering the academic year, not the calendar year. And obviously for 24 to 25, that means the students who enrolled in the fall of 2024 and then continued with their studies through the academic year of 2025. I have to say that this is a little on the early side, but good for Case Western that colleges are putting out their 2025-2026 common data set. And based on the definition I just told you, if students are enrolling in 2020, in the fall of 2025, then it takes a few months for the colleges to actually gather the data they need for the common data set. Even as we go through it, there's actually a line that says that this data is based on, I think it's as of October 15th of 2025, because they want to make sure that, students haven't dropped out. Sometimes students start, then they leave. So they wait until October and they say, base this information on your students that are enrolled, freshman, undergraduate, as of October 15th, 2025. And then obviously it takes a few months for the Office of Institutional Research to gather all this information, to clean it, because you're going to see it's a lot of information. And a lot of the colleges don't publish their common data set until May, June, July. So Case Western having it here in March is great. That's really impressive of them. So let's click on this and get started. And I am just going to scroll through. You can see, let's see how many pages. There's about 30 pages of data here. And I'm not going to go through every page because it's a lot of information, and that's why somebody might have said it's kind of overwhelming. And all of this information you may not need to use for your research, but some of it might just be interesting. So I'm just going to point out quickly the areas that I think are interesting. And then I think you might have a better understanding when we go through the college comparison report, which we created, where the information comes from, and to some extent, kind of why the report is helpful and valuable, because it's going to cut down on a lot of your research. And as the words kind of imply, common data set, this layout that you see here, this happens to be in a PDF. Sometimes a college will share an Excel file, is really the actual format that the organization. There's like a nonprofit organization called the Common Data Set, shares with colleges to fill out their information. So that hence the name Common Data Set, and they're asking the same questions and trying to get the same data from all the colleges. So I'm just going to scroll through a little bit, but then I'm going to jump from sections. Obviously, the first section is just telling you about the college, what type of college it is. Is it private? Is it public? You can see up here in A2. Do you want me to actually, let me just increase the size a little bit if that's helpful. Yes, somebody said, can you zoom in? Okay. Whether it's, coeducational, there's not that many, single sex schools anymore. I don't even know if there's any male single sex schools. There's definitely, the sister colleges for women. What, are they on trimesters? Are they on quarter system, on the semesters? What type of degrees can you get at the college? So this is kind of basic information. Here's information about enrollment. So how many students actually, enrolled at the college. I'm trying to see if I can scroll. Let me just, okay. Oh, so here's the date. It is provide numbers of students for each of the following categories as of the institution's official fall reporting date, which is October 15th. This got cut off, but I'm sure it was 2025. So, kind of goes along with what I just said. They can't even start collecting the data until October 15th in the fall. So kind of interesting. I don't know why Case Western didn't specify how many full-time male versus females that actually enrolled. These are just giving final numbers at the bottom. The only thing I can say, and I'm just guessing, this is the first time I'm looking at Case Western's 25-26 Common Data Set, is they may have put it out and made it public, but it might not be done. So they might come back and still add this information because this is not information that usually they're going to hide or don't want to keep, don't want to, share people who are researching. So I'm sure they will come back and fill this in, but I guess right now, if we're looking at it, all we know are the total number of undergraduates who enrolled this past fall and the total number of graduate students. So again, this might be helpful to you if you're looking at certain schools, wanting to know how large the graduate population is, because sometimes, even though obviously it's an undergrad, they have undergraduate classes, but the college, if they have a lot more graduate students, then that might be where the emphasis is versus undergraduates. So that's why, you might be interested in the graduate versus undergraduate numbers. Obviously, we would definitely be interested in knowing male versus female because at certain schools, there's definitely, we're seeing a trend towards more females applying or and getting accepted and enrolling. And depending if you have a son, that might actually give your student a little bit of an edge at that type of a school. I mean, I will tell you offhand that Tulane is one of those schools where they just have probably double the number of female applicants and the number of female students who accept and enroll. So if your student were a male and wanted to go to Tulane, they might have a slightly easier time getting in. And the reverse happens at some of the more STEM heavy schools. So, where there's a higher percentage of male versus female. Again, this is why you might want to be looking at this section. Of course, again, I'm seeing here that a lot of this isn't filled in, and my guess is that they just put out, this is maybe their first version, but they're going to come back and fill it out. And if there's too much that's not filled out, then maybe I'll skip and we'll go to the 24-25 Common Data Set. But at least they're giving totals, but this is again normally filled out to look at the ethnicity of the students that attend. Let's keep going. This is to give you a sense of the number of students who might get a Pell Grant. And this is broken out between freshmen versus undergraduates, which would obviously be sophomores through seniors. And then retention rates are the number of students who return back, usually they base it on the number of sophomores who are returning, who were there as freshmen. And you can see here, it's a 93% retention rate. That is great. The average, which isn't, bad, is about in the low 80s. So at a school like Case Western, we would expect a higher, retention rate. So that's kind of where we would expect, but it's definitely on the higher and very strong side. Let's keep going. Okay, section C. Isn't it a section that is important to you? You know what? I'm looking here. I'm really surprised that all of this isn't filled in. Let's go back. I'm going to keep this open. I'm going to open another tab. Let's look at the 24-25 common data set to see if that is more filled out. Because I'm a little surprised. Well, I'm surprised, meaning that I think that that it's a draft and they just haven't completed it, and they're going to come back with more of the information. Okay, so here's the 24-25. Let's see if, yes, you see, here are the sections. They're all filled out. Male versus female. They're not just giving you the totals. Oh, let me zoom in a little bit more. So this makes sense. And again, you can look at the 24, 25, 26, but it's just not ready, even though they have it public, which is, something, for you to recognize. These numbers are usually all filled out. So this is and making more sense. Okay, so let's skip to section C that we were on before. Oh my goodness, wait. Now why? Okay, here. Now why are we not getting? Okay. Well, I thought that this was going to make more sense, but it looks like they didn't even fill it out. They're not sharing. Okay, this is bizarre. Let me do one more thing. And so you can just, I'm sharing with this live. I, didn't plan on looking at Case Western. Let's see if maybe that just wasn't a good version. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Yeah, something was wrong with that PDF. Okay, this is working. Okay, let me zoom in again. So section C, first time, first year admission. So this is the admission stats that get summarized and that you might see higher up. Well, kind of interesting. Actually, still, Case Western didn't fill it in as much as we would have liked. But so that's very interesting that they didn't want to break out the men versus women of who applied and who got accepted and who ultimately enrolled. Little unusual. So they're only telling you the total numbers of who applied, who admitted, and who enrolled. Wow. So this is, let me say that a college doesn't have to fill this out. They don't have to share this information. Somebody said maybe Case Western can use AI now to more fully complete their data tables. I kind of agree. I'm a little surprised. And there's no enforcement of colleges to share this data. Most colleges do share it. It's not an issue. And there's three other places where they share the data. I mean, one is on their website in this form. Hopefully they would have been a little bit more complete. The second is that they share it with a company called Peterson's. Peterson's is the only company that compiles all of the common data set information in one place. And if you are another type of company who wants to license that data, if you are any of the college search sites that you might use, license the data from Peterson's. I mean, unless they are manually pulling the data, which is, again, quite an extensive effort. And honestly, we license data from Peterson's, and Peterson's gets all this information, whether or not it is on the common data set that the college shares publicly. So I know that we have this information. It's kind of disappointing that, Case Western isn't sharing it publicly. So let's just scroll a little bit. I know somebody said, um, that there are other colleges that do share all the stats, but let's just see how much Case Western shares and how much they don't share. So again, they're not sharing the breakdown of gender of who's applying, getting accepted, and who's enrolling. They're showing you the totals. They're showing you this section about who got put on the wait list. So the top with is how many students that they said should be on the wait list, and then when they send out a wait list notification, they're basically asking the student to say, I want to be on the wait list or not. So about half of those students said that they would remain on the wait list. And then ultimately, a little under 1,300 students were taken off the wait list and were given a acceptance. That's going to vary year to year, but this does give you a sense of how many students they tend to wait list and then how many they tend to take off the wait list. Let's go a little further down. This section C5 are the requirements that your student needs to have to apply. The only reason I'm pointing this out is there's always this question about foreign language. How many years does my student really need of a foreign language? So Case Western is saying 2 years are really required, but 3 are recommended. I wish that they would just be straightforward because recommended really means that that's what they prefer. And that's probably if your student's applying, unless they've got something else that's outstandingly, that puts them apart from other students, they should probably have 3 years of a foreign language. So just pointing this out, if there's ever a question of whether your student should do that third year of a foreign language, it depends on really the selectiveness of the schools that they're applying to. But this is a place you can come check. Okay, here's a section C7. I kind of actually always liked it. We include it in our tool. It's called admission factors. And they're broken up into academic and non-academic. And it's a little bit like a rubric of giving you an insight into the admissions office and what's important to them when they're looking at applications. You're going to find that almost every college is going to rank these top three as very important academically. The rigor of the school record, you hear that all the time, like how strong, what level of classes did your student take? That's important for them, for college to see, especially relative to the types of classes that the high school offers. Class rank, it's kind of funny. Sometimes I see it listed as very important. Other times I don't even see it listed anymore because so many high schools don't provide a class rank. But I guess if your high school is providing a class rank, then and so that's a piece of information that Case Western can use. They're going to use it because they're obviously saying it's important to them, very important to them. And GPA isn't very important. Not surprising. I mean, that's what colleges are looking at. Here's what's kind of interesting. So standardized tests, Case Western, I'm assuming but is test optional because they're saying that the test scores are considered. So we're going to look at something a little bit further on, but they're saying that we're test optional. So if your student sends them in, we're probably going to look at them. But if your student doesn't send them in, we're okay. We're going to look at other things to give us a sense of how strong your student is academically. I have seen test optional schools, but where they have marked that the test scores are important to them. So that's kind of conflicting because they're telling you you can apply without a test score because with test optional, but the test score is important to us. So if a school, for that reason, I would try and look at this section of a common data set for any schools that your student is considering. And if they are test optional, but they say the score is important, I would, probably send in your student's score if it's that 50th percentile above. And there might be a chance that if your student doesn't send in the test score, it's a hint to the school that your student didn't do that well, and obviously this is important to them. So I would at least understand the importance of the test score, even though the college is saying that they're test optional. Obviously, the essay is going to be important to the school, and recommendations are going to be important. Let's look down now at non-academic. Extracurricular activities are important. I will say that that's kind of interesting. Oh yeah, here it is. So at a school like um, Tulane, they actually, for this is just important to them. They mark volunteer work as being very important. So obviously that tells you that if your student has any type of volunteer work, they're applying Tulane, you want to highlight that in an essay or somewhere in the application because that's the type of work that's very important to that school. So here, Case Western is saying extracurriculars are important. Sounds like an interview is important. I don't really know the policy about how difficult it is or not to get an interview. Um, Personal qualities are important to them. Talent or ability is important. First gen isn't that important to them, although obviously they're going to consider it. Alumni, whether you're a student of and your parent is an alumni, they'll consider it, but it's not that important. Makes sense that geographic residence for Case Western is not considered. It's not that important at all. But you will see that other schools, particularly some of the state schools, obviously geographic reference is going to be important to them because they might have mandates as to how many in-state versus out-of-state students they're going to take. And volunteer work, although not in the very important category, is important to Case Western. So, and then here's one last thing to look at, the level of applicants' interest, which is another phrase of a way of saying demonstrated interest, if you've heard that. They're saying that they consider it, which might be something to take into consideration, not to use that word too much, but because I've definitely seen a lot of schools that say level of applicants' interest not considered. And so what this is saying, demonstrated interest, they want to, and they are probably looking at how your student is interacting with the college even before they've applied. So do they open their emails? Have they attended any sort of online or in-person information session? Did you get a chance to visit, which is probably kind of one of the highest of ways of showing demonstrated interest? Have you reached out to anybody on campus with an email with a question? So they are tracking all of those things, and it could be for Case Western because they are considering it, that if your student came down and were compared to a few other sets of students where they were all very similar, it might come down to Case Western looking at how much demonstrated interest did your student have versus the other students that are very similar. So again, this is why it's worthwhile to look at this section called Factors of Admission. Okay, let's keep going. Here, SAT, ACT, it's considered, but it's not required. And okay, here. This is section C9. I don't know if anybody even knows that this exists or looked at it. So these are percentages looking at the number of students who enrolled at Case Western and what percentage of the enrolled students also submitted a test score. So honestly, these numbers are high. So these are all pieces of a puzzle that we're trying to put together. These numbers are high, that the number of students who enrolled also submitted the test scores, yet Case Western is test optional, and they're saying test scores are just considered. So it's a mixed story or mixed messages what they're giving. So the fact that 46% of students who enrolled had submitted their SAT score, we can only imagine, we don't know. The ideal data to know is the percentage of students that applied with the test score. They're not telling us that. No schools really do anymore, or they never really did. But we're just going to have to make an assumption that if 56% of students who enrolled submitted an SAT score, we can only kind of imagine that more than 56% of students who applied also applied with an SAT score. These are high numbers if you look at other, quote, test optional schools and the percentage of students who submitted their test scores. I can't say this with any statistical significance or confidence because we're just kind of estimating or guesstimating around all these numbers here. But most students do not take the SAT and the ACT. Most students are not submitting 2 scores. So, I'm not saying this is like legal in the math world, but I would kind of add these numbers together to give you an idea that just almost 80% of students, no, sorry, 70% of students submitted a test score, whether it was the SAT or ACT. And these were the students who were enrolled, again, so you can only imagine the students who applied. So just going back to the fact that Case Western is saying they're test optional, they are, but personally, if I was working with students and they want to apply to Case Western, I would make sure that their test scores were in the 50% percentile or above, and I would submit them because clearly they are looking at them and clearly majority of students are submitting them. Okay. So this is the insights you get looking at the common data set. Here is the breakdown of the SAT and ACT by 25th percentile, 50th percentile, and 75th percentile. But why is this important? Because if a college is awarding merit scholarships, they are likely awarding the merit scholarship money to the stronger academic students, who are going to be in the 75th percentile and above. So that's why you want to know the 75th percentile. You don't want to know just the 50th percentile. And don't know why, but most websites do not show you the 75th percentile. We do. I'll show you that we do. And that's what you want to be looking at. So if you're a student, if you want merit scholarship from Case Western, which is the next thing we're going to look at, is if they give merit scholarship and how much merit scholarship money do they give. So if your student wants merit scholarship, then A, they probably should be submitting their SAT score, and B, it should be a pretty good SAT or ACT score, at least 1,500 and above. I don't want to make anybody feel badly whose student might have, lower scores. Not that they are bad scores at all, or they're not strong academically. I picked Case Western. It happens to be a selective school, so don't be put off by the actual numbers here. Just hopefully listen to the framework that I'm talking through and how you should look at the information relative to the level of schools that your student's looking at. Okay, let's keep going on. This C10 is just a breakdown of kind of, this is maybe relative to the class rank information that Case Western is interested in. A lot of colleges really don't even share this information, again, because they're not looking at class rank, but now it makes sense that Case Western said class rank was important to them, and now they're showing you, where in the class standing most students who enroll at Case Western, where they fall. And there's, strong students. Majority of them are in the top 10th of the graduating class, and almost everyone is in the top 25% of the graduating class. Here's GPA, which also makes sense. Majority of the students have very strong GPAs. Over 70% of the students have a 3.75 and above. So again, this gives you a sense of, if your student is interested in Case Western, how you can compare their academic stats relative to the type of students who are being accepted and enrolled. Okay, I'm going to skip now. There's lots of other data here. Actually, here is the data about early decision. Case Western has early decision. You can see here that they are saying that they had 104 students apply and 298 were accepted. My guess is it's a higher acceptance rate than what there is if we were to look at just the regular decision. And let's see. And they also have early action. So they have both. Again, probably other places that you can confirm this as well, but definitely, nice to see it in the common data set, and particularly looking at the numbers of how many applied and how many got accepted. Okay, I'm going to skip to section H, which is all about the financial numbers. There are other sections here that talk about the campus, the types of dorms, how many students live on campus, off campus, on campus or off campus, the clubs, the majors. So all worthwhile looking at, but just because, amount of time we have left, I'm going to skip. And section H is financial aid. This is both need-based financial aid and merit scholarship information. The important pieces of information for need-based is you can look at these numbers. We actually do the calculations for you, but basically this is going to tell you how many students applied for need-based aid. Of the number of students who applied, how many were deemed to have a financial need, and of the students who the college, Case Western, said, yes, you have financial need, how many students actually received financial need. So it's kind of like the funnel of financial need from Case Western's perspective. And the other number that's important is this line I. So let's go through. So there were a number of students who applied for financial need. How many of those students were deemed to have financial need? And of those students who had financial need, how many did Case Western actually give financial need to? And then the next important number is what percent of need did Case Western meet? And that's line I. And Case Western for need-based aid is very generous. They're saying we offer 100% of whatever your deemed financial need is. So if by chance, you have an SAI that is going to be in that category where you have need-based aid, whatever your need is, Case Western is going to meet 100% of it. So that's from a need-based perspective. If that's where your family sits, and your student has the academics to get into a school like Case Western, and obviously they're interested in the type of school that it is, it's a very generous and worthwhile school for your student to apply to. Next is section H2A, and it is the first two line items are what are important for merit scholarships. So line N is the number of students who did not have financial need. So either they didn't apply for financial need, or they could have been part of that section that got cut out where they might have applied, but Case Western determined that they didn't have financial need. So there's 601 of those types of students who are not going to be eligible at all for need-based aid. Well, I'm sorry, there could be more, but 601 of students who were not eligible for need-based aid received merit scholarship money. And those 601 students on average received, like a little over $30,000. That's significant too. So Case Western happens to be a school where there aren't that many of them that is generous in need-based aid and is also generous in merit scholarship. Usually it swings one way or the other. Usually schools are very generous with need-based aid. They tend to be the very selective schools, the quote Ivies or near Ivies, or schools are not generous with need-based aid and they're using their money more for merit scholarships and attracting stronger students. So this is a kind of a small segment of students, and if there's a Venn diagram where those two circles cross, that Case Western is generous with need-based aid and generous with merit scholarships. And the merit scholarship piece is if your student is a strong academic student who's in that close to 75th percentile or above. So this is there's a lot of other data here about debt and number of students who have certain types of loans and the parents who have take out Parent Plus loans. Here it's saying that Case Western is going to ask for the CSS profile, which is a more detailed financial aid form than the FAFSA. And then they also show you deadlines. So I kind of quickly went through the most important parts of the common data set, but you can see why it's worthwhile to go into detail and look at that information. Now I'm going to, let me stop sharing and pull over a, yep, here it is. Let's pull over a college comparison report, which has this information. Oops, where did I lost my Zoom people? Okay, and let's share this. Okay, so here's a common data set that was run, sorry, a college comparison report that was run. And what we did is, so we actually have a platform called Insights, which is a college search database. But we've always focused much more heavily on finances, on merit scholarships, because we want to help the parents, the families who want to reduce or need to reduce the cost of college. They aren't going to get need-based aid. So the only option you have left is to obviously be very focused on the cost of attendance of the colleges that your student is applying to, and apply this to colleges where your student can receive merit scholarships. That's going to be your primary strategic tool to lower the cost of college. That's why our database, we focus so heavily on merit scholarships, on crowdsourcing offers, on looking at the 75th percentile, because that's all the type of data that you need to start to estimate, will my student be offered merit scholarships? How much will they be offered merit scholarship? And therefore, what's going to be the net cost of that college to me? And this is information you can gather and estimate, put it on a spreadsheet, or I'll show you our Insights database, create an account there and create lists. And from that information, you can estimate the net cost of the college. In addition, you should always be running the net price calculator at colleges, but sometimes they're accurate, sometimes they include merit scholarships, but not all the time. So you need to kind of go from different angles to look at what the net cost might be, and come up with an estimate before your student applies. So here's the college comparison report. It's comparing Case Western versus William & Mary versus Williams College, kind of an interesting range of schools. As you can see, we are labeling Case Western to be very generous with merit, which is what we saw on the common data set. So what we did is we had all information for colleges, all colleges in the US, and we put together our own quartiling system to say which colleges are in the top 25% in terms of generosity, which is in the 50th to 75th percentile in terms of generosity, and so on. And that's how we've labeled whether or not a school is very generous, moderate, that's William & Mary in terms of generosity, or no aid at all, which is Williams, which the more selective a school gets, the less or actually they don't offer any merit scholarships. So this is a good range to see the types of schools in terms of their generosity. So focusing back in on Case Western, these numbers obviously are matching up to what we saw in the common data set because we use the information from the common data set. So what the college reported was that 30,499, which we saw on the common data set. But then we also look at, because we crowdsource information from families once they get their offers, what type of money did Case Western actually offer students when they sent out acceptances and when they sent out their offers. And so that's what the parent range represents. So as you can see, there were, the 30,000 is an average. Some students got less than 30,000, and some students got more. And so that's why there's a range from 23 to 48,000. But on average, the average for what the parents shared with us in terms of their offers is kind of close to what the college reported. So I would feel comfortable to use that as a number in my estimates and figuring out what my net cost is. If we look at William & Mary, the college reported about 4,000 in terms of merit, not particularly generous. That's why we're saying it's moderate. Parents reported to us that, they got 10,000. I'm going to guess we might not have had a ton of of parents crowdsourcing. So our average came out to be 10,000. So, it's a little higher than actually, it's more than a little, it's double what the college average is. In this case, I would stick closer to what the college is telling their averages and make that assumption for William and Mary. And then hopefully for Williams College, you can see if you're a family that needs merit, your student can apply to Williams. They could probably, get in depending on what their sets are, but you need to be prepared that you're not going to get any merit scholarship money from Williams. If you were a student or family that had need-based aid, I'm sure that Williams would be very generous with need-based aid, but so you have to know what type of a family you are, and then you have to know what the philosophy is of I call it the financial aid giving philosophy of the college. Are they heavy on need-based aid or are they heavy on merit scholarships? And then the other information on this report is, we give you what the cost of attendance is, so you can start to do your estimates by looking at the merit money that your student might receive versus what the cost is of going to that college. And then we do the math. We estimate the math after. And another reason why you can see that William and Mary is not that generous, and you're going to find this with the majority of the state schools, is they just don't have the money. That's not the way the budgets are determined for state schools, and they usually, don't give out. I rarely have seen a scholarship, a merit scholarship of more than $10,000 from a state school, but the benefit is even for for in-state students, the tuition is much lower, and then you can actually get a look at the out-of-state, tuition or out-of-state cost of attendance. Some state schools, out-of-state cost of tuition is always going to be higher than in-state. How much higher? This to me is significantly higher. This is definitely on the high side of what the out-of-state tuition or cost of attendance is for state schools. And Williams, being a selective private college, is also up there in terms of their cost of attendance. And because they're not giving any merit, you're going to pay the full sticker price if your student decides to go there. Again, the purpose of this report is to give you a quick sense of the generosity of the college, give you an idea of what the total cost is so that you can make estimates and then determine whether or not these are schools that you want to go further with researching. Hopefully for a school like Williams, it will also kind of enlighten you if you were unaware of need-based aid versus merit, that Williams is not going to give you merit. It sounds obvious by looking at this report, but we have so many families who don't understand this concept of merit aid versus need-based aid, and which colleges are more generous with one versus the other. They let their student apply, and then they get the acceptances and awards back, and they're shocked. Oh, how come Williams didn't offer my student any merit, but this other school did? And obviously it's a pretty basic answer. If you had done some quick research or understood this concept at the beginning, you would know from the start that you were never going to get merit from a school like Williams. And then here we include the SAT, ACT test score ranges, which we feel are important. You can quickly see what the 75th percentile is for all of these schools. You see that they're test optional. And again, you can quickly decide, does my student have the capability based on their academics, because that's a lot of how the merit scholarships are determined, not solely, but in most cases, it's a primary factor. Does my student have the academics that are going to give them the chance of earning merit scholarships? Okay, so let me see what type of questions you guys have. And so somebody asked, is C11 GPA, it was section C11, which is on the common data set, based on unweighted GPA? It usually is on unweighted GPA, unless the college, states it in their common data set that they're using weighted, but most colleges are sharing GPAs that are based on unweighted numbers. Sure. Somebody's saying, hey, can you show us how to run the college comparison report? Absolutely. Sorry. Okay, so let's, and I will share this URL here here's the URL for running the college comparison report. You basically can pick 3 schools right now. I mean, let's put Tulane since I've been mentioning it. Let's put Bryn Mawr just because it's near me. And let's put Elon, just picking kind of random schools. Okay. So you can pick any 3 colleges you want. Then you just have to tell us, like, is your student, what year are they graduating? College or high school? 2027, 2026, or sorry, 2028. And then just give us your name. I'll just put that in. And then we're going to need your email address and it will be sent to you. And that's it. So, and then you just look out for your email, and you should get a link to it. Somebody said, I tried it earlier. I told only which 2, which I selected, but something went wrong and I only got 1. Okay, so this, just so you know, the report, the first report is free. If you want to run unlimited reports, you do need to get a subscription to our Insights. And let me just show you how Insights works, because it's also kind of pretty helpful in the whole research stage. And I can give, and you can also create a free report for Insights. Okay, just logging in. So when you get to Insights, you have this dashboard of these are articles that relate to what year your student is in high school. There's a Discover section where you can create all these different lists. When your student decides where they're going to apply, you can tell us, and then we can help you keep track of all the dates that they need to do essays for, or obviously send in applications and even financial aid forms. And then finally, when your student gets offers, you can come back here and share those offers and see what other students also received. We have a whole library of videos on different topics that you can look at. If you want one-on-one services, you can get help with specific aspects of the process. And we work with some companies that we just share, pass on some discounts for. But and honestly, we're gonna update this week. If you have a paid account, we're going to add a widget actually right up here for the college comparison report, where you can run multiple versions of the college comparison report. So that's also part of the membership. But here is Discover. And this is our full database of all colleges and all the information we have. So the college comparison report, basically you're picking 3 schools and you're seeing information on those schools. But what if you didn't know what schools that you wanted to look at? What if you didn't know what schools your student could get merit scholarships from? That's the best way of using this database here. And so let's just these are all the different ways you can filter the database. You can actually add any of the columns if you want to filter in more detail. So for example, if I wanted to see all the colleges that had early action, I could do that. All the colleges that are early decision, all the colleges that have early action 2, which maybe you've heard about it or not, but that's kind of like a later date where your student can apply early action. So, there's all different ways that you can slice and dice the data. But if I wanted to see, and let's just take the student who might have like a 1400 on their SAT. So I want to filter and see all the schools where a 1400 is in this 75th percentile. So maybe I'll put here in here like 1350 to 1425. And so that's going to be one criteria. But then I also want to make sure that these colleges offer merit. So now I'm going to look at this field that says average merit for freshmen without need. And I want to find all the colleges that offer at least $5,000 of merit to my student who has the 1400. So I'm going to say, show me all the schools that offer merit that's greater than 5,000. Okay, and now I'm going to use these two criteria. And it's going to sort or filter. And now all of a sudden, we have narrowed our results. So there's 104 colleges that offer merit, and where my student who has like that 1400 is in this top 75th percentile. So if I didn't know what schools I wanted to use the college comparison report, I could come to this section of the website and I could basically do a reverse filter or a reverse lookup of all the colleges out there, looking at all that common data set information. It's here, and I don't have to go search college by college and looking at the common data set. I still might want to go and look at the common data set on particular colleges because it's other information that maybe we're not including here that you want to dig deeper in. But I don't have to wonder, am I missing a school that I didn't know offers merit and could offer to my student? I've got 104 of those schools right here. Then now I can dig in deeper and see, how much merit they offer and other statistics about the colleges. So let's actually look at a college like Beloit, just because it came up here. And this is what we call, the college detail page for Beloit. And it's showing a lot of all the information that you see on that table, just in a different format. We have information about the endowment. This is that retention, what percentage of students return from freshman year to sophomore year. So Beloit's 81, which is the normal. And remember, we looked at Case Western, which was 93. So that's really strong. But if we go to the aid and merit scholarship, it shows that Beloit happens to also be one of those colleges that's like does a little bit of both. They're very strong in offering need-based aid. They meet 95% of a student's need, and on average, that's about $60,000. And they also offer $45,000 in merit, which is also strong. But you can see that, and they're offering that to almost every student. Actually, it says here they are offering it to every student who doesn't have need. They're offering some version of merit to 100% of students who don't have need. So that means your student applies to Deloitte, your family that doesn't have any need-based aid, you are absolutely going to get merit. So now the question is, let's look at actual offers. And this is honestly very unique to us that we crowdsource families' offers, and then you can see it. This is all anonymous. You don't know who it's from. You just know the profile of what the student looks like. So this is from this year. This is from students who are going to start college in the fall of 26, and they've been getting their offers, probably since December with early admission. And you can, sort these columns as well. So let's sort this by SAI or EFC. You probably want to look at, students who are coming from a similar social economic family as yours, and the SAI kind of gives you that sense. So for families that have SAIs that are above 80,000, they're absolutely not going to get need-based aid. So those families are going to get merit. I mean, most of these, as you can see, most of these families have gotten merit. And they're very generous. It's all in that mid 40 range to low 50s. So that's from this year. You can go back to the previous year as well. Okay, interesting. We have more offers this year than we had last year, but again, a similar number in the 40s to the low 50s. So this just gives you kind of the backup, to kind of say that the merit that Beloit is saying that they are offering, they truly are offering. So this is the type of data that you can look at if you get an Insights membership, in addition to, running the college comparison report as often as you want. So I hope this was helpful. I'm welcome to answer any other questions. Let me see what else we've got. Does the tool help pick a college by major? So that is part of the filters. You can filter colleges. We don't help pick what major your student wants to major in, but you can filter the colleges by major. Let me just pull this up. So that's the first option is you can filter by major. We call it general major, which is kind of like just the classification that colleges use as high level major, and then there's more specific. You have to actually pick a major, and then it shows you if there's specific majors underneath that major, if you want to kind of narrow it down even more. So yes, so that is in there. Where do you find net price calculators or net cost calculators on the college website? Another good question. You can Google any college, like Case Western, and then I would just put the words net price calculator, and that hopefully should bring you to the URL on the college website where they have their net price calculator. We also have that information here. Net price. Let's see, calculator. Let's see. Yeah, so we have the links here in this column that says net price calculator. If you click this, you would go to, in this case, Allegheny College's website, to the URL where they have the net price calculator. So either way, is how you can get there. Let's see what else people have asked. Not all students have access to counselors or other adults for counseling, and the common data set might help in making choices and help create your college list. Absolutely. I personally find that the common data set is the most valuable, piece of data or pieces of data that families should be looking at and absolutely incorporating it into their college search. Oh, I just don't know the purpose of the common data set for us as parents as applicants. Well, hopefully now you do know the purpose. It really gives you kind of a little bit, or more than a little, but it gives you insight into the college, their policies, the numbers. It's the most detailed. I mean, of course, we wish that we would get even more detail and some numbers, were even broken down further, but this is the best data that is out there if you're going to be researching colleges. Okay. Does the comparison report include need-based stats as well? Right now, it does not. We are working on adding that in, but the first version was just to put something out that was focused on merit. What tools do you have to support the CSS for families that clearly won't qualify for FAFSA? Good question. Every October, usually it's usually the first Sunday of October, we do a webinar on the FAFSA, and usually the second Sunday of October, we do a webinar on the CSS profile. We go step by step and show you how to fill it out. That's one thing. If you want to get a sense ahead of time, you can go to our YouTube, roadtocollege.com, and look up, this past year's step-by-step walkthrough of the CSS profile. We do it every year. Honestly, for the CSS profile, not much has changed, but it doesn't matter. We do the walkthrough because a new set of families, people can ask questions. And in addition, we have a a service called the CSS Profile Review, because as Amy is mentioning, the CSS profile is a complicated document. The FAFSA has become streamlined and pretty straightforward. We will do a walkthrough of the FAFSA, but you really don't need help filling it out. Actually, most of it gets pulled from the IRS because there's now an automatic connection between FAFSA and the IRS system. So that's much more straightforward. The CSS can be complicated. Very frequently people make mistakes. They interpret the question differently. They put the wrong information in. And so we have a service where you fill it out and then we walk through it with you and make sure that based on all of your records that it's been filled out correctly, and you obviously get a chance to ask questions about it. So that's very useful. A lot of families take advantage of that. What somebody's asking about are merit scholarships per year or for 4 years? Great question. The merit scholarships that are listed on our insights, most places, even on the college website or on the college comparison report, are per year. They're not going to list, the merit scholarships as a total number for the 4 years. So that's per year, as are the cost of attendance numbers that you're looking at. Those are per year numbers. Could be kind of scary for some people, most people, because cost of attendance is ranging, depending if it's a state school versus a private school, anywhere from 30,000 to 100,000 these days. So that's why it's so important to understand need-based aid, merit scholarships, and how can you reduce, that cost of attendance number so you're not paying what we call sticker price. Where do you go to see where colleges use the FAFSA or the CSS profile? Good question. Let's see. If you use Insights, that is a field we have here. And let's see, I think we can even filter it, but let's see. It's probably a filter I would have to add. Yeah. So here's a filter. Let me move up my screen a little bit. It says CSS profile required. So I just put that on. Boop. Wait, no, it didn't take. Okay, here. CSS profile, yes, it's required. And now it's going to filter my results here, but basically you can filter this whole database and look at the schools that require the CSS profile. So you can see of the 104 colleges that were on this list, because we've already narrowed it down, 16 of them are requiring the requiring the CSS profile. So that's one way of knowing which colleges require the CSS profile. Another is you can Google, it's the College Board also, because they manage the CSS profile. You can kind of do College Board list of CSS schools. And here is the list of the participating colleges. Here, I'll put this in the chat. And these are all the colleges that require the CSS profile. All colleges accept and require the FAFSA if you are applying for any need-based aid or if you're applying for federal loans. And then it's about 300 and something, 320 something around that schools that also require the CSS profile. And depending on what your family situation is, some people strategically might choose to not apply to a school that's asking for the CSS profile. Particularly if you're divorced, you might actually have an advantage to apply to a school that is only looking at the FAFSA. But alternatively, the schools that ask for the CSS profile also tend to be more generous with need-based aid and merit scholarships. So it might be okay, to apply to those schools, even though it takes a lot of time to fill out the forms because those schools might be more generous at the end. In the compare offers option available to students and families if they are in the process of applying to colleges. Oh, is the compare offers. How can families even choose EA or ED in their application without knowing what their final sticker price is? Do we have to go with the average merit aid numbers that are available and hope that my student gets merit? So I think you're talking about here. Compare offers is only available for if you have a high school senior. But if you don't have a high school senior, the way that you can see the information from compare offers is in the crowdsource piece of insights. So you'd have to get an insights membership to see the information that's in compare offers, because compare offers is really only for seniors. But it's free for seniors, but if you are younger and have a younger student through the college search process, you need a membership in Insights to see the information from this current year and from all the past years. So that's how you would see that information. And to your question about how can families even choose EA or ED in their application without knowing the final sticker price, it's definitely an issue. Let me just break that apart a little bit. Early action this is not as much of a concern because you're not making a commitment for your student to attend if they get accepted. So, but it's an issue in general because families want to know what the final price is before their student applies, and colleges don't give you the tools, aren't being fully transparent in some cases. So, but in early action, it's less of an issue because your student is not making commitments. In early decision, you're absolutely right. There is this kind of double-edged sword of your student applying early. They might, get a little bit of an advantage in terms of a higher admission rate because the numbers are more favorable for students applying early decision, but you don't truly know what the net cost or the final cost is going to be. I will say that early decision schools, in my experience, not all of them, but a majority of them tend to have better net price calculators. So I would still do the net price calculator for any school that your students are thinking of applying early decision. And I would print out the numbers that you put into the calculator for the net price calculator and the result. I would print that out so you have a record of what you submitted and what the calculator told you. And there is, and then if this is truly the school that your student wants to apply to, you can also call the financial aid office and ask them for a pre-read basically of your finances. Not every school will do it, but it's worth giving a try. So those are a few ways to get a little bit more confidence on what the actual quote final cost might be. The other thing to keep in mind is nobody knows their final cost because tuition is not set by college boards until usually May and June of the spring before, or the spring or the spring/summer before your student is enrolling and after you've had to make a decision. So whatever numbers, whatever tuition numbers you're using to make your estimates, or even whatever tuition numbers the college includes on offers that they send out in spring, those are not your tuition numbers because your tuition numbers haven't been set yet. They won't be set until usually sometimes July 1st when your bill comes. So it's not at all an ideal process. And it's one that people have been complaining about for a while and definitely needs an overhaul. So that's the best answer I can give. It's not, the best that I, would like to give, but it's all we have to work with. Okay, it is 9:45, at least on the East Coast. Anybody have any other last minute questions? I'll give it one last shot, and then I think we might say goodnight. Does the Discover Schools have a filter for percent of freshmen without need receiving merit aid? Yes, I think we do. Let's go back and look at that. And then I'll get to the other question that Nina has. So, let's see. This was, let's see, merit. Freshmen without need receiving. Here, I think that's it. Freshmen without need receiving merit aid. This is that's the number you're looking for. So this would be a percentage number. You can put in here, 100%. Let's see. We'll say greater than 50. Okay. Yep. So I've got other filters on here, but yes, there are that there you can filter the database by the percentage of freshmen without need who are receiving merit. Okay, where was the other question? Oh, somebody was asking about what the different membership levels are for Insights. And here, let's see, I'll quickly go here. Anybody can sign up for free. Our lowest level is Essential, where you basically get full use of the Insights platform, which I just showed you. And you get access to all the crowdsourced data, you get access to all the filtering. The plus level is you are invited. We also have a private Facebook group that is run by a college counselor, and we answer any questions that you have about the whole process, financial or academic. Obviously, there's lots of places that you can potentially get your questions answered. Lots of Facebook groups. We actually even obviously have the larger Facebook Paying for College 101 Facebook group, but this is a very small group where we make sure anybody who has a question, we answer it. And then the last thing about Plus is you get a discount if you want to do any of the one-on-one services that we have. You get a 10% discount. And then basically the premium level is everything that I just said, but in addition, we do monthly Zooms with a former dean of admission from Colby. She was dean of admission from Colby College, also at St. Lawrence, and now she actually is interim dean of admissions, and she floats from college to college each year. She's at a different college. And so she's a great expert. We do monthly sessions with her on different topics related to the process. And again, you can ask questions. We do those as Zoom meetings, so you can unmute yourself, you can, be on video. So they're a lot more intimate. And then the other big difference is you get 20% off any one-on-one service. So the premium level is really helpful for somebody who wants to do some of the one-on-one services because of the discount that you get. Okay. Let's see, what somebody's saying, you don't know your offer price until July. Yep. So in March, or when your student gets accepted, they will send out if your student got need-based aid and what the amount is, and they will send out if your student is getting merit scholarship. And they will also send out what they call cost of attendance is, but that cost of attendance is based on, the current year's tuition, which is going to be increased, and that next year's tuition usually doesn't come out until July. So that's that's the timing of the process and why it's a little screwed up in terms of knowing what your true cost is. Okay, thank you. I'm glad this is helpful information. Does the database include state flagship schools? Yes, it does. Um, and what kind of support is included with the essential plan on how to use the filters correctly? Um, the support for the essential plan is you can send us any questions versus that you have about using the product, the database. You can send questions to support@roadtocollege.com and we will help you. Okay, everyone. Hopefully, this was valuable. I really want to make sure that families are doing good research during, at least at a minimum, during 11th grade. If you're here with a student before 11th grade, well, kudos to you because this stuff, you just have more time to absorb it and more time to kind of look around and fool with the numbers. The more research you do, the more comfortable you'll feel about the process, about the schools, and quite honestly, about your students' college lists, because it is the most important thing that you have the most control over. It's your students' college list. Where they apply are obviously are the only places that they are going to get into, and those places are going to determine your final cost. So that's why it's so important to focus on this stage of the process. Okay, good night, everyone. See you soon. See you around. Bye.